welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
So you got a new child
There's a new child involved in life.
involved.
I will tell you, even though this child is only currently 5 days old, it is so much different than the first child.
Okay,
It
let's hear some things.
Oh, it is barely cries. It actually can. It takes a swaddle, which Jack would not swaddle. So therefore, he cried all the time unless you held him. But he refused to be in a swaddle.
My daughter loved the swaddle.
Oh, this one loves the swaddle, loves the warmth. You wrap him up in a blanket and you put him down, and he's like, I'll just sleep until I'm hungry, and then I'll cry when I want food. Like,
this is great.
Oh, it is. So far, it is such a different experience. I hear about all the time people who have, like, a first child that's like this one, and then they have a second one, and are like, what the hell happened? Like, I don't know what to do anymore. And that's
why I was always scared of the second. Like, we had such a good luck with the first that I thought doomed had to be.
Yeah.
So what about sleeping through the night? Do you also love sleeping through the night?
I mean, no, they're not supposed to. You have to wake them up for the first 2 weeks of life every 3 hours to feed. Otherwise,
you don't though. You actually do not.
Their stomachs are not big
wait. Are you breastfeeding though? Apparently, it's different if you breastfeed. So,
yes.
Okay. Well, if you don't breastfeed, you don't actually have to wake them up every 3 hours.
That's still not true. The stomachs aren't big enough to hold enough nutrients until they get a couple weeks old. That they will sleep through their feed too, if they're like the kind of babies that sleep, but it's really bad for them because then they don't have enough nutrients within them. And like glucose was a big deal when we were at the hospital. They tried to take our baby to the NICU at one point, even though it was like very like rash and ridiculous, like that they were trying to do that just because the glucose was 1 point under where they wanted it at that particular moment. The glucose, the heel stick for the babies. But there is like some rationale behind the fact that if the glucose is too low, which is what happens when the baby gets like doesn't have enough and sleeps through its feeding, it will be lethargic and tired because it's not getting enough nutrients and therefore not want to eat. And the brain is what is developing off of the glucose that's being sucked in. So yes, there is a rational reason why you do need to wake the baby up for the first 2 weeks of life. Theoretically for the first month, but after 2 weeks, it's like a longer time frame. You can go between 4 and 5 hours instead of 3 that you're supposed to do for the first couple weeks of life. So
we switched doctors over this issue. And the second doctor was like, no, there's no need for this.
But how long did you have a doctor before you switched? I guarantee your baby was over 2 weeks old at that point.
Probably. That's what I can't remember. I wish I knew for sure.
So yes, after the first month, straight up, it's like your baby you can let the baby go as long as it wants to. It will wake up and cry when it needs food. But it's the first month like that. So, and I guarantee when you switch doctors, I remember us talking about this, when you switch doctors was not within the first 2 weeks and most likely not within the first month.
Maybe not, yeah. Yeah, I don't remember.
So yeah, it's the difference between a newborn and an infant. So newborns are between birth and 1 month, and infants start at the 30 days around then time frame. So 30, it starts a whole different concept of.
Gotcha. Because like I've read these horror stories of parents that did this for like the first year or something, and their baby's like, no, not a baby anymore, like 10 years old. Their 10-year-olds can't sleep through the night because they're still stuck in the habit of wanting to wake up every few hours.
Oh, and I mean, we still have the problem with our oldest child who still wants to have like to breastfeed and
does Julie still breastfeed
him? Sort of. So it's kind of weird because because basically the last 6 months she hasn't had any breast milk. It's more been a comfort measure that the child has been dealing with. The problem is now she has milk coming in again because there's a newborn. So all of a sudden in the last couple of days it's caused this real big weird thing because as opposed to just sucking on the nip for a minute because it's a comfort measure, which. Long story behind that whole thing. I'm completely against the fact that he still even does that, but I'm not.
How old is he now?
Almost 2, not quite 2. But you know, the whole different thing on what your thought process is on how long somebody should breastfeed or not. Because I
don't actually know the answer. I don't know what I think
according to the World Health
like,
Organization, they say that actually a child should, for the most healthy children, they are supposed to breastfeed for at least 2 years, is what the WHO says. Very rarely does that actually happen anymore, and in America.
Well, yeah, because 2-year-old, I mean, they're toddler at this point, right?
Yeah, and they're
like
not getting their nutrition from breastfeeding anymore.
Right.
Breastfeeding is more of a comfort / they can get still some immune system like augments and stuff from mom, but they're eating meals. They're not getting their nutrition from breastfeed milk anymore if they're like a 2-year-old. But they, the WHO still claims that you should do it for at least 2 years, and now that she's got milk coming in again, and now that there's a competition for the boob time, like I just like when he woke up just now, like I said, I walked away because he woke up and I had to go put him back down. The first thing that he said was he screamed and said, "Booby, booby, booby," is what he wanted, and I'm sitting there with him going, "No, like you can't have it. Like I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. It's for one." Mommy, like he was mad that I was in there because he wanted mommy in there, so that's why he was saying booby, because that means mommy's gonna come in, and mommy won't come in now because she's got another child to deal with. So it'll be a learning curve. We'll see. Right now, like I slept in the like we put him in his own room finally. Oh, thank God! But it's his own room that he's never been in really before on his own. So last night I slept with him in this new room, and mommy slept in the other room with the baby. So kind of seeing how we can wean this one. So I'm not even sleeping with my wife anymore.
What used to be the guest room?
Yes.
Basically?
Yeah, your room. He's in your room.
My room is gone. Damn child having fool.
I will tell you, when we were in the hospital, this is a really funny story. Jack came to visit, and I was walking around with him in the hallway, and there's pictures in our hospital all over the place, of the Capitol building, Washington Monument, stuff like that. We're in D.C., so that's what happens. Right. And I pointed to the Washington Monument, and I was like, "Do you know what this is, Jack?" And he just looked at me and he said, "No." And I said, "The Washington Monument." And he goes, "Washington Monument. It's a boy." I thought that was the funniest shit that I had ever heard.
Holy shit.
It's a boy.
Oh, God. That's so good.
So I will tell you, though, like ignoring new stuff that's happening in my life right now, because it's all so new, I don't even know how to describe it at this point. I have watched both versions of the Fyre Festival.
Oh, really?
I have. Okay. Have you?
Yeah.
You have finished the other. Which one did you like better?
So I think that it depends on what you want out of it. I think that the Hulu one had more entertainment value to some degree, but I think that's what they were going for. But I feel like from a perspective of I feel like you have to watch both of them, honestly. Because the one that's on Netflix is produced by the advertising agency Fuck Jack that was hired. I think it's what they call it, Fuck Jack. Yeah, pretty sure. That was hired to put on the whole thing. That didn't sound right.
No, it's
fuck something.
It is fuck something. It's not Fuck Jack though.
Fuck Jerry. Fuck Jerry.
Yeah.
Fuck Jerry.
Yeah. Don't tell my son to fuck off.
Yeah, fuck Jack.
Fuck Jack.
So they have that behind the scenes footage because they were there recording. But they have a little bit of bias, right? Because they want themselves to look like good guys. So whatever they're talking about, some of the shit they were doing, like deleting the social media stuff, they make it sound like
they didn't know what to do. They were ordered to do it, and they had no choice. And they didn't know, like, now that they look at it, it probably wasn't right to do, but they didn't understand what was happening at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Versus when you watch the Hulu version, it's like, these guys are fucking just as sleazy as everybody else, basically, is their point of view on it. But then whenever you look at the Hulu version, I mean, they paid Billy McFarland $250,000 to be there whenever he wasn't supposed to be making money off of anything at that point.
So they paid him $250K? That's what I was wondering. Like the whole thing, God, he seems like such a entrepreneur. And then as the documentaries and stuff go on, you're just like, he really is just a con artist who might not even know he's a con artist. Like I don't know if he does know, to be honest with you. it was the weirdest thing to watch it and go, I'm not sure he knows what he's doing. Like, I think he thinks this is like appropriate and allowed.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think there's several occasions where
like why else was he on the island telling people like to go free for all, go get your tents and all that stuff, trying to quote unquote problem solve? If he was really just a big con artist, he'd fucking bail the hell out of there. But he was there.
Right. Yeah, no, I think he was like, so whenever you watch both of them, I feel like there were the intentions of putting on a real festival. I don't think that this was supposed to be what it was. You want to sleep?
Yes.
I think that they really meant to not do what they did, and it just happened.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you, and that's why I think it's so weird, because it seems like you could have easily just been a con artist and conned all those people out of money, but instead it was like you really tried to do something and you just failed miserably, and so miserably because you conned so many people in so many different ways, but you thought some product was coming out of it. That never happened. I don't know. It's just so weird. I want to know, and this is the thing that bothered me almost the most on the whole thing. How the fuck did they get a hold of FEMA tents?
One of the like the handlers basically found them. Luckily,
found them. So should they go to FEMA?
They were available for sale. Basically, yeah.
Does FEMA not keep those tents? Does FEMA not have those tents for emergencies? Like, and that's what I couldn't figure out. Are they?
It was after some hurricane that they.
It was after
Hurricane
Michael. Basically. They said, but wouldn't they get them back for the next hurricane, or do they just make new tents for the next one?
I guess they make new ones.
That doesn't make sense, right?
I mean,
FEMA has an endless supply of tents.
I mean, I agree. Like, you know. Did they sell them for a markup, basically? Did FEMA make more off of this than it would cost to get the originals, sort of things? So that it made financial sense to do?
If FEMA lost money off of this, we have a problem either with an even bigger problem in what happened with that festival, or a problem with the way FEMA runs.
Right. I would like to think that what happened was FEMA made a profit, so to speak, and as a result, they can technically get more tents than what they sold those tents for.
Yeah, that would be a nice thing to think about. But watching, because you said you watched Netflix first.
Yes.
I watched Hulu first.
Honestly, I think that's the order to watch them in too, personally. But I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter.
So I will honestly say that I watched Hulu first, and I think I had a little bit more context going in. I think the Netflix one had me a little confused in some areas that I wouldn't have understood had I not watched the Hulu one. But at the same time, I might have had more context from some of the Hulu things watching the Netflix one. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what, because I just watched them both in like a week span, and so I don't remember. But I do remember watching the Netflix one. Going, I don't remember or how I wouldn't have known how they got to this point had I not watched the Hulu one, but. At the same time,
I think that both of them kind of assume you already know what the Fyre Festival is, and were like a part of the social media meltdown that happened.
And
that's how. I went into it already knowing, what happened, and remembering it from Twitter and all this stuff.
See, and I did not remember it. One of the things was the orange text, the Twitter. The Twitter, the orange Twitter, the orange tweet that they had all the influencers go out, or the Instagram, yeah. Hulu documentary explained very well what it was and what the intent of it was. Whereas I think the Netflix one just kind of jumped into, and then the infamous orange tweet came out. And I was like, okay. Like, I'm glad I know what the orange tweet is because I watched the Hulu documentary, but I don't think they explained at all, like, what the orange tweet meant and why it was a big marketing ploy and all this stuff. And I don't know, maybe it's
I guess that's not good documentary practice if you're not explaining it and assuming people know some of it, because I guess already knowing that stuff, it didn't strike me as odd because I knew it. But that's a good point, that if you don't already know what you're talking about, the documentary should be the thing that's telling you these things. You should be able to go into that not knowing anything and leave it knowing things, not like what.
I am not confident. I guess confidence is not the right word. I'm not certain of why both Netflix and Hulu decided to make documentaries about it at the same time 2 years after the fact.
I think they probably started working on it immediately.
And they both coincidentally released them at the same time? Like, I don't know why there were... I've never seen competing documentaries before. So... And it's not like they were competing with each other. Like, one didn't have a different angle that the other one had, in my opinion. Granted, they came from a perspective of, like you said, the marketing company, and one actually had Billy McFarland, you know, actually interviewing the camera and things like that. I don't think the Billy McFarland pieces added anything to the documentary.
It really didn't. I mean, it just made him like more of a piece of shit.
Right.
And he really didn't answer any questions. They really got ripped off in the $250K, in my opinion.
And I'm surprised he'd be allowed to have $250K for...
He's not supposed to.
So how do you know he got
wasn't.
it? And
well, that's just what they reportedly paid him. I don't know what happened to that money. I don't know if anyone sued for it, but he's in the middle of tons of lawsuits. So, you know,
he's also in the middle of jail.
That is another thing he's in the middle of, which was weird watching that. I don't know when exactly his section was recorded and stuff. Like, was he? Was this prior to sentencing? Or
well, that was another strange thing as well. But no, he kept saying he wouldn't talk about pending lawsuits or whatnot.
Right.
They were asking
but then they were like, he said like pending criminal investigations, and then one of the guys, you could hear him off camera say there aren't any pending criminal investigations. That's done, or some shit like that to him, and he just kind of like just sat there stoic.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, him being in it very much threw me off, and I don't think it added anything to the documentary, watching it from that Hulu perspective and seeing him in it.
Right. What'd you think about the blowjob master?
Oh, I thought that was interesting. Did that guy just have the wool over his eyes as well?
Yeah, because he'd been supporting Billy through multiple ventures. This was not his first rodeo with Billy.
Right.
And he really thought Billy was, you know, a genius, basically. I mean, when you look at his fucking black card, that thing in itself was just a scam. Like, every business he's ever done was just a scam. But people didn't realize it. Like, what was up with that woman that gave him millions of dollars? Like, why was she continually doing that?
The whole thing makes absolutely no sense. And what I'm more surprised at is, at watching the documentary, started seeing about magnesis, like you said, the black card.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of that before either. Like,
well, that's because it never made it outside of New York City.
Well, no, because there was some
a
people,
New York City thing.
So that's not true. There were some people in one of the complaint section of the Netflix documentary when it started flashing through and showing comments from people, like the complaints about the magnesis card and how it was a ripoff, because, you know, they were trying to unmask those comments and stuff too, but it wasn't, you know, done the same way. But there was a lot of people from California.
Huh. Well, maybe it got spread at some point. I didn't know that. But I know that he did sell, like, a lot of it was like event packages and stuff that a lot of people never got, actually. So I guess it's possible you didn't have to live in New York to be a customer.
They could just got them.
Right, but because I mean, the biggest draw is when they talk about it was that club there in New York.
Right, the townhouse that he like trashed or whatever.
Right. So I don't think that same thing existed like outside of New York.
I don't. And then to watch the Hulu version at the end of it when they were revealing to the people that they were interviewing how, you know, they're like, you know, we start getting these emails shortly after Fyre Festival about all these different exclusive things that you can get. I assume that they sold the mailing list, and he's like, what if I told you that was actually still Billy McFarland? And they were like,
yeah,
you've got to be kidding! Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy whenever you're already under FBI investigation that you continue to commit crimes, but I guess dumb criminals do dumb shit.
Well,
and moral of the story.
And the Netflix version went more into that because they actually had footage of that Freddie guy or Frankie guy. I can't remember what his name was. Whereas the Hulu documentary just kind of talked about it and told people that it was a scam, but there was no like.
Right,
no
because they didn't have
anything.
Because he kept that ad agency basically. He kept cameras rolling like even after the fact. Like I don't know, like he was like perfect for making this documentary because he had all this shit recorded and cataloged for everybody.
Yeah, the whole thing is, oh god, it's just so weird, so weird. But I did watch them both, and I don't even know what to say. It was entertaining. It was very entertaining to watch. If you guys haven't seen them, very entertaining documentaries to see.
People have argued with me about this. So like, I don't understand why you're watching these. I don't understand why you keep talking about it. Why you think it's entertaining. I think there's some aspect of watching these people get ripped off, and I hate to be like this. What is it? The sadomasochist? Is that the correct term?
Sadomasochist.
That enjoys seeing, not sano. Someone that enjoys the pain of others. I mean, I don't enjoy the pain of others, but for some reason, there's something about that particular thing where it's just like you were all really dumb and you did really dumb things, and you kind of deserve it a little bit.
Well, and the sad thing is, I don't necessarily feel. I do and I don't, because I don't understand how you got so many people, like social influence. It kind of proves the power of social influence and how so many people out there are just based on social influence, being socially influenced or influenced, is that a word? Or
that's
being
one of the things
social
that I said in my
influencers.
Discord was like, this is a good documentary to see how you can be influenced by, like, all you need is advertising. You don't actually need a product. Like, because they were advertising a product that never ever existed.
Yep. Yep.
And the people that were at, one of my favorite parts is in the Netflix documentary where it's like him and Ja Rule and some of the models when they were doing this party thing, and they're all trying, the models are trying to understand exactly what they're advertising, and Billy's like, just imagine these fucking losers in their basement and they got mommy's credit card and they don't know what the fuck to spend it on, but they see you hot babes out here on the beach, so we're just gonna take all these fucking losers' money. Like that right there summed it all up from that moment. Like this, he knew what he was. He knew he was ripping these kids off.
He absolutely knew what he was doing. I've never been a person to randomly see a tweet or an Instagram from somebody really popular and be like, that's the thing I gotta do. Never has happened in my life. I understand it will get that, the word of mouth and get it out there. More people will be talking about it. And then you might be influenced from the perspective of, man, everybody's talking about this thing. Maybe it's going to be like a lot different or a lot better or whatever than I thought. And it gets it out there just from an advertising perspective and all. But those first couple people who just immediately like bought tickets because of a model tweeted it out.
Yeah.
What, really?
Right.
Like, what?
And just the price to some of that shit, it's just crazy. It's just crazy that the amount of money people put on these little wristbands and shit.
Did it ever talk about what people actually put on them? The email said the average person puts $3,000 on it.
Right, it did not ever say, but then there were people that, like when this was all going down, tweeting about how they had put 20,000 on and stuff like that. So in the documentary, though, I don't think anyone ever said either way. But I do remember back when it was all happening, these people crying about, I had $20,000 on this wristband. There's nothing to spend it on.
Yeah, and the cheese said, I did think that the Netflix documentary, those fuck Jerry guys, that main dude, I don't remember the guy with the long hair, the surfer looking dude, the yoga instructor, and he said something like at the end, he was like, they kept coming up with all these problems, and I feel sort of as if us helping solve the problems as they came up enabled this festival to happen. And it was like, well, fuck yeah, of course it did. Like, that was
right.
What are you trying to argue right now? Of course, you solving the fucking problems that would stop the festival, made the festival happen. That was actually a piece of shit, like festival. Yeah, like, I don't know what you're trying to. That was literally fuck Jerry trying to save face and say we were just kind of doing what we were supposed to be doing. But also the fact that one dude, the suck dick dude, he apparently found a food vendor at the last second, and then they were appalled at the fact that the food vendor was serving cheese sandwiches. Like, what did you think that they were going to serve when you gave them a week notice for a festival like this?
Right. I wonder how different it would have been had the rain not hit the night before. I think it still would have been pretty fucked, but I feel like that rain fucked them. That was like the final fucking.
It was. I would agree. And the mattresses being all outside and soaked were probably a very, 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 very. Oh, were you coming up there to sleep by chance?
I was.
Oh, I'm coming back. I just like walked. I was coming up to change my pick, and I realized because it's dead, and I realized it's nighttime. But I'm on the way back.
I just assumed you would come here to sleep too, so I just got to bed.
Well, just being shot at by skeletons, no big deal. Chug, 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 chug.
What's interesting to me is how Ja Rule just got out of the whole thing skate-free. He started another company that's exactly like the Fyre app.
Icon or whatever?
Icon, yeah.
Yeah, that's... It's interesting except for the fact that I guess Billy's name's the one that's on all the paperwork.
Yeah, but then you got Ja Rule on Twitter upset that people forgot about him or something. He's like, "This was all my idea, everybody. It was all my idea." Like, what are you trying to do, Ja?
He wants to make sure people know it was his idea to fuck everybody over.
That's kind of what it seems like. Like, hey, Ja. Like, if I was Ja's lawyer, it's kind of one of those moments like, hey, man, shut up. Just shut up, man. Just fucking make a record or something. Be quiet.
Yeah, I will say for those watching, if you haven't seen it or either one, I think you could get away with watching just one or the other and be okay. Both of them was kind of entertaining, but I don't think one added that much more than the other one did. Like, you got the concept of what was happening to just watching one.
Sure, I think you can just watch one, but I think if you watch one and you find it interesting at all, you should watch one.
Oh, agreed. When I watched the Hulu one, I was like, damn, this is actually entertaining. I can't wait to watch the Netflix one. And then I watched the Netflix one after the baby was born and back home. So I watched the Netflix one, or the Hulu one, right before we went to the hospital. And then I watched the Netflix one after we got back from the hospital. So I had a little bit of time to digest.
Right.
And then see. Yeah, definitely very entertaining. But I'm more baffled that I haven't heard about it. Now, so I started asking all my friends that have, come over, seen the baby, this and that, if they've heard about Fyre Festival or this thing with Billy McFarland, and everybody's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So nobody in my in my circle has any clue about this stuff when it happened, and I also did not.
There's a guy that watches my stream. His name's Lab Tech, and he was actually there.
Lab Tech was at the festival?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Lab Tech watches my streams as well. I need to talk to Lab Tech. Lab Tech went to the festival?
Got that insider info.
Wait, what? Is Lab Tech in with the influencers? Was he like... I want to know what made Lab Tech want to go.
He's probably just, one of those millennial things.
Did he see it from like a model and go, I need to be to that? Or was he one of those paid people? Was he an influencer that got to go? No, he was just one of the attendees. Did he actually go and like leave that day? Did he stay there? And then that's what I want to know.
I don't know. He won't talk about it. I think he's embarrassed. He won't talk about it.
So people went, and then a bunch of people like headed toward the airport that night, and they were showing how they got locked in and all that stuff.
They just because there's no planes. They had lots of people didn't ever even leave their home, thankfully. Well, but then those people that got locked in the airport, like that's just crazy.
So what happened to the people on the island? They never talked about the people that were still there.
What do you mean?
The people who didn't go to the airport. What'd they do for the weekend?
They eventually got forced to leave. But like that first, they were there for like 2 nights basically, and they like ransacked. But that's what their plane was supposed to leave like 2 days later, right? Do they just take their normal scheduled flight home and stay on the island for 2 days? I think so.
What did they do on there? Did they eat? Did they just go to the Exumas? Like, because they could have just like gone into town.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what. I mean, I remember back whenever this was all happening, you could have found out more info like on Twitter because they were talking about it. But yeah, I don't. Yeah. I don't know if they basically got pulled out sooner or if they were there for the whole 2 days. I don't actually know. But anyways, we probably should wrap this episode up.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye, everybody.